Hazel and Augustus sitting in a wait, not a tree, the Anne Frank house. KISSING. This is The Swamp. It's our podcast. And it's an acronym.
Stands for some whack-ass movie podcasting. I'd like to apologize in advance for this podcast. I watched this movie 2 days ago, and I've been sitting on it since then, trying to figure out how to not be offensive. I think I texted Dara after I watched this and said, this is going to be the one where we're going to get canceled.
So that's funny that you've pre-prepared a cancellation speech, because I also have a pre-canned apology to start the episode off with. Because I do just want to remind everyone, if you're new here, hey, welcome. Our show is called Some Whack-Ass Movie Podcasting because we don't fucking take shit seriously here. If you're coming here for facts, knowledge, or any sort of meaningful analysis of a film, this is not it. This is not the show. And so I just want to remind everyone that we're all here for fun and laughs, and this is a piece of media that we're talking and joking about. Emily and I aren't making fun of people with cancer, or specifically kids with cancer. That's not funny. And I'm talking about the book-turned-movie, The Fault in Our Stars. That is what we are discussing today. This has no translation to, I don't know. I just want to remind everyone that it's a fucking stupid podcast where we joke around here. Please don't take anything we say too seriously. Yeah. Obviously, I'm not going to try to actually say anything offensive, but, I am going to criticize this movie because it's corny as fuck.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no. I was watching this with, my roommates and my partner, and there was a couple of, jokes that I was making that were just bombing, and I was like, oh, no.
And I feel like I am not the person to say an offensive joke around, because I will encourage you to actually make it worse. I'm not going to be the person to stop. Yeah, I'm not going to be the person to filter this show. But if we haven't gotten canceled yet, we're certainly, I don't know, the people who have stuck around this long hopefully also think that there's some humor to be found in this.
Yeah. And if by chance you're new here, welcome.
Welcome.
I was gonna say we're not pitching ourselves very well.
I know, but I'm about to rip a new one in the 2014 film The Fault in Our Stars, the subject of our episode today. And guess what? I didn't come up with a better name for January. So and nobody has messaged in with a better suggestion. So Young Adult January. And I think this is a pretty, we started off hot and heavy with the Hunger Games, but this is a pretty iconic and prolific one to jump to next. I think we're staying hot.
We're our fingers on the pulse.
Well, certainly the pulse of 2014.
Exactly.
I was super surprised to I knew when in my life I was consuming this media, but I guess I just didn't really remember how fast of a turnaround of what a flash in the pan that this book to movie was, because the book was published in 2012.
Yeah.
And this movie came out in 2014. So that means the minute that book came out, they were getting the rights. They were, because it takes a while to make a movie.
Was hot off the press.
Wild. That's a crazy turnaround time. Because even you think about something like The Hunger Games, which also did feel like a really hot cultural moment, but that book was out for more than 2 years before that movie. But John Green was already pretty established as a YA author, but this is the one. This is the one that put the stake in the heart of every teen. And this was such a Tumblr moment too. This was a culmination of a lot of really just intense and unfortunate cringe, mid 2000s things.
Well, right now I'm gonna force you out of the closet, because I have always known you on social media as she's taking a big ass glass sip out of her wine. I've always known you on social media as OK Dara, and now in 2023 it's cool. I always thought it was a pretty cool username. I was like, oh, that's so nonchalant, blah blah blah. But that's not the case. Dara, do you want to tell everyone why your name is OK Dara?
It was actually my first note to be upfront and honest with you all. That I was a big John Green girly. I was a nerd fighter, which was what the people who watched the Green Brothers vlog called themselves. I was a big fan, and I remember Instagram kind of coming around late 2012, early 2013 would have been the very beginning of our 7th grade year.
Yes.
And not a lot of kids had Instagram because, like, not everyone had, like, iPod touches or, like, you know, I don't know, a private personal mobile device to have social media on. I feel like is a key thing when you're a young person to, like, venture into that world. And I had, unfortunately, I wish I could go back in time and, like, prevent myself from getting a Tumblr so early, but I had a Tumblr in 5th grade, which I think is really, that's really young for somebody to... Yeah, it's pretty young for somebody to start on social media. And, like, I remember, like, my mom would, like, look at it. And so she, like, went through all the people I followed once. And there were so many people with, like, profane usernames. Like, cunt, bitch, like, Harry Potter's #1 cum dumpster. Like shit like that. And she, like, unfollowed them for me. She was like, Dara, this is not okay. And I remember being so embarrassed, like, that my mom was going through who I followed on Tumblr. But obviously, I was fucking 12 years old. Like, that is obviously I should have been being parentally monitored.
Yeah, that's like when people, like, people's, like, mom, like, find their search history on the family computer kind of thing.
Yo, it was very
I'm sure it was mortifying.
And so I obviously had, like, kind of been online for a while, and so I had an Instagram pretty early, and not a lot of other kids in our grade did. I remember it was like a select handful of us, and we almost treated it like a direct person-to-person messaging app. Like, it was like back in the day, you would post fucking whatever on Instagram. You'd post 10 times a day. You'd post, like, you'd talk to each other in the comments as if you were texting. It was kind of the wild west of the social media, because nothing really, like, I don't know, a lot of social conventions of online behavior.
No norms had been put into place yet.
But I was originally Nerdy Octopus was my
God.
tag. And I thought that was
I remember
that was pretty iconic, and people would, like, call me that, like, in the hall. You're Nerdy Octopus. Yeah, I know you from Instagram, because I was way more comfortable talking to people online than in real life. So I was, like, messaging people on Instagram that I, like, you know, oh yeah, you're in my math class, whatever, let's chat. And then in real life, I'd be like, don't fucking talk to me. Like,
please, I'm scared.
They're like, oh, are you Nerdy Octopus? Like, I was friends with way more people on Instagram than I, like, actually was in real life. Which, I mean, I think is, like, kind of true of the way a lot of people treat social media now. But I was originally Nerdy Octopus, and then I felt like it was getting tired. I was like, people are calling me it to my face, and it's getting a little embarrassing. I need something at least with my name in it. So I was like, okay, Dara. But I always learned never to put your last name in your socials, like, just to be safe, like, safe internet safety. I don't know. And so I was like, okay. And so I was like, obviously, John Green, The Fault in Our Stars, like, that's my favorite book. So let's go with the OK Dara. And it is still my professional website that I send to jobs, that I sent to the job my big girl adult job is okdara.com. If you want to go look at my resume, you can, okdara.com is literally my professional, it's on my LinkedIn. It is very public facing. I just go by that. I think it's better than a first name, last name situation, because I knew I was going to get married and, you know, name change, and I didn't want to deal with that shit of, like, I don't know. But so, okay, Dara that is my tag. You can find me on all social media platforms for it. My personal favorite is Twitter. My Twitter is private because I do use swear words, and I did not want jobs to know that I do that, so I did go private. But if you follow me on Twitter, and you're, like, your profile picture is, like, a literal meme or, like, something funny, or in your bio it says, like, stupid dumb hoe bitch, like, I know you're not, like, from the government and looking for me, so I'll let you follow me if you're clearly, like, you know, a real normal person and not, like, I don't know, somebody looking to out me for
job purposes.
Tweeting about how, like, bad I have to shit in the Marshalls. Like, no. But yeah, find me anywhere at OK Dara. It is because of this book. That is the origin. And I'll tell people, like, it's a secret. I'll be like, yeah, you know my handle. You know that John Green book from 2012?
It's like after, like, 3 glasses of wine, you're, like, coming out to people.
Yeah. Worse. It's worse. It's actually worse. But this was, I will say, like, this was my favorite book at a moment in time. I was one of the girlies who read this 50 times. I had a signed copy.
Was this your Hunger Games?
I was obsessed. I would say that my favorite book, like throughout my whole my childhood into early teen years, was Maximum Ride. Was a whole series about. It was by James Patterson. And it's this YA series about kids who have like bird wings and they're like genetic mutations and they're getting like hunted by the lab that created them. I don't know. That was my favorite book series for sure. And I would have, stood by that even while I liked The Fault in Our Stars. I still would have been like Maximum Ride is my favorite series, but this was like my favorite maybe standalone book. But I wish I could go back and tell my earlier self to just fucking read something better, because there's no need for me to read this book more than I'll put a cap at 3 times. That's too many. But I was a big John Green girly. Obviously, all the books, all the media.
I was gonna say, was this your favorite John Green book then?
So I was definitely a contrarian, and I liked to be different than other people.
Was it an abundance of Catherines?
It was not an abundance of Catherines. I think I probably would have said Looking for Alaska. I probably would have swung that in.
That was the alt girl.
The alt girl. Yeah, the alt girl's like Looking for Alaska because she was more edgy.
She was edgy, and she killed herself.
and I also did like Paper Towns, which I also remember that being a pretty disappointing book to movie adaptation.
That one was bad.
Yeah. I knew this one was bad back in the day too. I remember like as like the casting announcements were coming out and shit, I was in my heart ready to hate this movie.
Okay.
I was never gonna like it. I think I've watched it maybe twice in my life. Once at the theater when it came out, and once yesterday. Because I didn't care for it, and I just think I had such a version in my head, and at that time you're 12, you're 13, you're like, this is never gonna be the thing I want it to, and I already went in wanting to hate it, basically.
So obviously Ansel Elgort and Shailene Woodley both have the starring roles. Who was your perfect casting then for this movie?
I don't think I had like a specific actor that I wished. I just remember this getting released and me being like, that's not it. Like, I remember
it's not him.
I was like, that's not him. Like, that's not him in my head. And it wasn't even as much like that there was a perfect version, but I just knew that like the books made me feel like there's no way that book can't give you such a gut-wrenching experience when you're 13 and it's about like two kids not much older than yourself fucking dying. Like, it is almost emotionally manipulative in the way that it's like, this is a fun, cute book for kids, but no, it's fucking not. Like, it's gonna make you so upset no matter what, which is the case with a lot of like angsty teen fiction.
Yes,
but the way that this book had just a chokehold.
But also it's one of those things like with a lot of angsty teen fiction, it'll make you upset in like a not an understanding way, but like kind of a definitely more mild way. Like, I forgot, and there's definitely a reason why this book took the fucking world by storm, and it's the abrupt like change up, like the tonal change up. Like, I forgot like that this movie got like fucking sad because it is kids with cancer.
Gut-wrenching. And I think it's almost telling you like it's gonna be sad. We're really winking. Life isn't always perfect, and we're really hitting you over the head with that. But no, now it's literally gonna be like some of the most upsetting shit. Which is why I think a lot of young girls really liked it, because it was a really like confined space to be viscerally upset.
Yeah, absolutely. You're
really emotional. Yeah, you're in your feels.
You're like at the beginning of puberty. You know what I mean? I know all of us read this in 7th or 8th grade. So you're like in that really weird stage of your life where you're just angsty in general and just upset about anything that you can be upset about. So like this actually giving you a reason to be upset was like almost validating, if that makes sense.
Yes. It's like, here's 250 pages of the saddest fucking shit. Enjoy.
Yeah, really.
Just eat that shit up. Why don't you?
Well,
preteen
like,
girls.
Again, like that's the thing about this book and this movie. Because I forgot that, like, it hard changes up on you. They go to Amsterdam and all that shit. And then once Augustus says, I lit up like a Christmas tree, like, once he said that, the entire movie shifts from like 0 to 900 because it's just
So
like
fast.
he's dying, like just beating you over the head with it, and it's depressing. It is a sad ass movie. It's corny as fuck,
yeah.
and it's stupid, and there's bad writing, but at the end of the day, it is kids with cancer dying.
And I feel like even it was worse in the book, obviously.
Absolutely.
Because the book, this movie kind of sucks. The book did not suck as much. It was obviously very, very tropey, very, you know, cliche.
Yes.
But I do stand by that John Green's writing really has something that I think appeals to an early YA audience of making you feel kind of smart when as you're 12, you're 13 and you read this book that's kind of, it's using some bigger words, but it's also like, oh, it's a metaphor.
Yes.
That feels so cerebral and intelligent. And as a 13-year-old, you're like, that is like the smartest thing I've ever heard. It's not. It's fucking stupid. But as a kid, like, I think he included a lot of sort of more adult concepts in like a very cliche teen way.
Yeah.
And all of his books had that little like, just sort of intelligent, all the characters were very witty and very, I don't know, I kind of was always like, oh, I wish I was like that. I wish I could do anagrams in my head. That's so quirky. Like, and I just think that that's what appealed, I don't know, to kids, but I think also a lot of adults really got into these books, especially, I feel like this book not only took YA, like, by storm, but just my mom read it, and my mom read it in a book club with other, like, moms. Because it was just, like, it was a hot cultural moment. I think this is, like, Twilight, I think, was the beginning of, like, adult women reading YA and, like, kind of, like, not ashamed. And I think John Green certainly participated in the, like, yeah, this one's for the moms, too.
Love that. Can we shift now? Can we totally shift to talk about how this movie is just so silly?
It's bad. It's a bad movie.
I mean,
I'll
like,
say it.
It starts off essentially with being like, oh my god, Shailene Woodley with her fuck-ass Ellen haircut is reading the same book over and over. Yeah, she has to be depressed, obviously. And then it's
and
like,
the way that
it's
the
like,
way that
yeah,
the doctor,
depression is a side effect of dying. And it's like, oh my god.
the way that the doctor and her mom, Laura Dern.
Oh my god.
I forgot.
Jump scare.
I fully forgot.
There's a couple of them.
Forgot.
We'll get to it.
It
We'll
gets
get to
worse. It gets worse, but the way that the doctor and her mom are in front of her being like, yeah, you're depressed. And she's like, I'm already on Lexapro. I'm not depressed. And the way that the two of them are like sassing her into her face of like, honey, you need to get out more. You need to like go find a boyfriend at support group. You're depressed. I'm like, no doctor has ever like talked to a kid like that, especially like in front of their parent or like with the parent.
Like teaming up with her mom.
No. But yeah, this movie's corny as fuck. I think that was the thing that I, even when I, you know, saw this for the first time back in the day, I did not like the sort of corny take. It felt very visually like a Disney Channel movie in the beginning. It's very like, hey mom, I'm a quirky teen and this is what's up. Which is just not how, you know, not how I felt like the book was. So I felt like it was almost playing it down to a younger audience at first. And I felt like it was such a, you know, hard-hitting, mature concept that a big thing was that they wanted the director of Perks of Being a Wallflower to do this movie, and he said no because he thought that the concepts were too similar. And I can so see that if they'd gotten that director, sort of the tonal similarity of Perks, if you put that with this story, it could have come across as a lot more genuine.
Absolutely.
Because that's why I feel like none of the funny moments are actually funny. They are like Disney Channel written funny moments where there should be like a laugh track in the background, and there just isn't.
Yeah.
And it's
when
supposed
Isaac
to be
is like,
a little...
When Isaac is like egging Monica's car or whatever, and Ansel's like, we have 4 eyes, 6 or 5 legs, and 4 working pairs of lungs. You better go back inside, sister. Like, you know what I mean?
And even like, and then afterwards when he's like, that's the worst speech you've ever given. Like, no. Just the writing, the dialogue
was really bad.
Just so bad. And I think that the directing, just the visual style of it all too was very like bright, poppy. And I think that aided a lot to the branding success though, because the cover of this book, so bad.
The cami underneath the V-neck really did it for me.
No. But I think the visual branding of this piece of media was crazy successful because that color blue,
Yep.
that specific shade of like vibrant baby blue, and then the two clouds on the cover, so iconic. And I think in this movie they really did with the text bubbles that were like hands drawn, was so indicative of that era. There were a million like Tumblr posts of like that shit, like the quotes, like handwriting book quotes and putting them on your Pinterest was like this movie was the birthplace for that shit. But I also just think that the acting is atrocious. The writing was bad. So I give a pass to like Laura Dern and Willem Dafoe. I give them a pass because they were just trying to do the best with what they were given. Ansel Elgort, it's almost impressive how bad. Because every moment...
I said Ansel Elgort put his whole bad actor pussy into this.
Not a single line lands. You were given the biggest softball of a character of all time to make likable.
He's already like a charming character. He's like just staring at her and saying, Hazel Grace Lancaster. It's really bad. And Shailene Woodley's no better. I think she the only thing that she did better was look more sick. She played sick really well. Like, which is bad to say, but like at least it was one of those things of like she like seemed like it's like, okay, yeah, that's a kid that has cancer, you know what I mean? Ansel Elgort went and just like kind of like hobbled around or like on like his like fake leg. And that was it.
Which I watched this movie with my mom.
I forgot that he didn't have a leg.
I was asking my mom a lot about, like, the medical stuff, because he has an above-the-knee amputation, and it's having above or below the knee, like, makes a huge difference in your range of mobility, but she was telling me that if you're a relatively young and fit person, having above the knee is not, like, detrimental to your ability to, like, you know, walk or move. But obviously if you're a little bit older or already impaired, a little bit above the knee versus below, huge difference. But she's like, if you're like young and fit and you have your other leg, you know, below the knee as well, it's not a huge deal. She also was telling me all these grody facts about like, oh, did you see that tube they're putting in her stomach? Do you want me to describe the kind of fluid that comes out of the chest tube to you? And I was like, Jen! No! But yeah, his acting is so bad, and I also do want to say Ansel Elgort, not a cool guy.
No,
I am of the mindset that we believe people when they say that celebrities are shitty to them, and nothing has come out to say anything opposite. So Ansel Elgort is fucking, I don't like the word canceled, but like he's not cool in my eyes. And when I think he was kind of boxed out of a lot of the marketing for the most recent like West Side Story movie that he was in. They like took him out of the press store and they replaced him with Mike Feist, who plays like one of the side characters. And I'm hoping that all of the Ansel Elgort like previous media love gets shifted onto this guy, because he like actually seems wonderful. So I'd like to think that we don't see much of Ansel Elgort in the future, but he is like a hot Hollywood guy, so obviously they're gonna keep casting him in like leading man roles. But the thing is he's not a good actor. He's not good.
You know what?
You can tell me.
You know why Baby Driver was decent?
Because he doesn't fucking talk. I was just gonna say, my mom and I have this joke, which it's a horrible joke, but that when Baby Driver came out, that she was excited to see it because she has a crush on Ansel Elgort, and I was excited to see it because I have a crush on Kevin Spacey.
Oh!
What a horribly aged like joke between the two of us, because it's just now they're both horrible.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he was too pretty for this role?
Yeah, so the way I felt pretty conflicted when it got casted and I didn't agree back in my like teen state, and the way I kind of still feel now is that his character is written in a way that has like a weird level of conflict, where he is this sort of cerebral intellect, I put the metaphor between my fingers so I don't fucking fuck your butt, like stupid. But I'm gonna use big words and pontificate on whatever because I'm like that guy. Pretentious asshole, right? And then on the other hand, you have I'm an ex-athlete who lost his leg. So that's like something I've dealt with. And then you have the facet of like, but also I'm really nerdy and I love sci-fi and I'm gonna get you to watch aliens on the plane, and like, so he has this sort of like the geeky side, the former athlete side, and the asshole side. I'm like, you gotta pick two.
Right.
You gotta pick two to be in conflict. Like, have him be the, oh, I'm secretly kind of nerdy. I'm a really hot guy, but I'm kind of nerdy. Yeah. But also, I'm a pretentious asshole. That kind of guy exists.
My favorite level to this was the level where he tells her that he gets no pussy.
Oh my god. When he's like 18-year-old guys with one leg and then the circle and like the virgins. I'm like, speak for your fucking self, asshole.
I bet there's some 18-year-old guys with one leg that pull like really hard.
Especially, like, 18-year-old guys with one leg who are way less hot than Ansel Elgort, who are pulling just fine.
You know who this man was playing in this? A lesbian. He was playing a lesbian that was playing the long game, where, like, instead of just asking this girl out and to, like, have a relationship and to have, like, intimate relations, he used his Make-A-Wish on her to bring her to Amsterdam, and then decided, he's like, okay, I think I've done enough now that she, like, might let me kiss her.
Insane. Yeah, fully U-Haul lesbian. They're moved in together. They have 3 dogs. They have names picked out for their babies together, and he's like, okay, now I think I'm gonna pop the big question. So do you like me?
No, exactly. Oh my god.
I also did not really... So, this movie's version of the Make-A-Wish, they call it the Genies to, like, default from copyright infringement, but they're basically their version of the Make-A-Wish. I was always super bugged by the fact that in this, they say that he's 18 and that she's 17. And those are their ages. Okay. In the book, she's 16, he's 17. So for whatever reason, they shift their ages up 1 year.
Which makes it weird.
For no reason, really, like, other than, like, maybe that those actors looked a little too old to be, but they already look too old to be 17 and 18, so just, but my thing is when you are 18 years old, you do not get a Make-A-Wish.
Nope.
That shit starts from any age under 18, the minute you're diagnosed with cancer, up until your 18th birthday, you have access to the Make-A-Wish program. Mm-hmm. He's an adult man. That's an adult man. You don't get a Make-A-Wish. I'm sorry. Whether you had cancer when you were a kid or not, or now, you don't get a Make-A-Wish when you're 18. Mm-hmm. That always irked me. That was like a detail. That was one of those like book to movie things that just don't check out. That I always really was hung up on, because it also, like, not to say that a 17 and an 18-year-old can't, like, have a relationship, because that's not really a questionable age difference. No. But I'm already, like, she's already making jokes about, like, he's an older man. I'm like, don't do that. Yeah. Don't be doing all that. Yeah. But also just make them 16 and 17. Like, what's the harm? I don't know. I do think that it was not chill of them to, A, kiss in the Anne Frank house. We're going to get into that. But B, hard cut from their kiss in the Anne Frank house to 2 kids fucking. No, ma'am. I don't want to see that. I'm sorry. Do not put a lengthy sex scene of anyone who's implied to be underage on my screen.
Yep.
Don't do that. I didn't need it. I could have done something implied, or like them kissing and then the cut to maybe afterwards when she draws the little circle. That was a little cute callback to that stupid graph he drew. Do that. It was far too long for my liking and too much like
detail and like
description and lead up. No, I didn't like that. And I also I think that she climbed up 9 flights of stairs to get to the top of the Anne Frank house. So who's to say she couldn't, sit on top for 3 seconds? That's fine. But my issue was more with like the length of it, because I'm like, we don't need all that. I don't need to be seeing all that. But to get to the Anne Frank in the room, could you believe? John Green, prison for that choice. He said, I'm writing a book about the saddest thing imaginable. Who's another kid who really got put through it? Let's take their romance to Amsterdam, why don't we? Let's take the peak of their romance to the Anne Frank house, where Anne Frank and her family were hiding from Nazis. Let's have these 2 kids with cancer have their first kiss in that attic as a symbol. What the fuck? Prison. John Green, I'm sending you to prison.
There's just so many other places in Amsterdam that could have taken place. Like, she could have had to get on a bike. You know what I mean? And that could have really pushed her to her limit. Like, they were on a tandem bicycle, and she was having a tough time. You know, they could have been walking the red light district. That's inappropriate. But, like, just, like, there are so many other, like, more, I don't even want to say more creative, because this is creative in the most fucked way, because I don't think anyone would even have the audacity to write this. So I have to give him props for that, but it's shot. It's so shot.
The worst thing, too, is that they kiss and
everyone starts clapping. That would not happen. People would start yelling at them.
I certainly... People kissing anywhere in public, I'm not clapping for that shit. I don't care. If you get proposed to in public, I'm not clapping for that shit. I mind my own business. But the fact that they all start clapping, and it must be because that she has a visible disability. Yeah. Like that she has oxygen.
Oh, they probably saw her struggling the whole way up.
If you, I just think that is so incredibly rude. If you see somebody who has a visible disability and you decide to clap for them when they do something normal, that is so patronizing and that is so fucked. No. And that detail was obviously not given more than a shard of a thought, because in no way is that ever acceptable to be on the giving or receiving end of.
No, they should have been yelling at them. They absolutely should have been yelling at them. What's worse? Which one is worse? In the hypothetical that Justin Bieber existed in this in this universe, which is worse? These two making out in the Anne Frank house, or Justin Bieber writing in the book saying Anne Frank would have been a believer?
Honestly, I think that the writing is worse because he put that down in the guest book for everyone to see. This kiss was a fleeting moment experienced maybe by 24 people who, it's a wildly inappropriate. Let's give them a pass because they're teenagers. If they were two adults, that would be maybe even worse. Yeah. But let's say that they're two teenagers and that this is a fleeting moment and that's a little awkward and inappropriate. Justin Bieber, he was also a teenager, I believe, when that shit happened. But he had a PR team with him, no doubt. Absolutely. And he put that shit. He put that shit in writing. Also, these two kids are not famous. True. Imagine Dua Lipa and Trevor Noah making out at the 9/11 memorial. That would go wild.
Speaking of that, I want to bring up a new segment tonight. We play a lot of games on this podcast, but I thought it would be really fun to, just for one night, bring a new one into the mix. And it's called, Where's the Most Inappropriate Place to Make Out? I have a bit of a list that's been going on for the last day or so. I prompted Dara with this question about 5 minutes before we started recording. So should I start? Do you want to start?
I'll start off soft.
Okay, softball
because this was basically just in my head the thing that would be most bothersome to me.
Yes.
And I just think anywhere where you're in line, so in line at the grocery store or waiting to get on the train, anywhere where you're cutting off my access to moving forward by kissing each other, that's my baseline of don't fucking do that. So that's more time and place. Mm-hmm. But if you're, especially just even to keep in mind, if you're gonna have a big romantic moment, pull that shit up to the side, because even in the airport. Yeah. Unless your husband is coming home from war, do not be making out in the terminal. I'm trying to get to my JetBlue
flight.
No.
Yeah. Well, speaking of being in the airport, I said that if your plane is hitting extreme turbulence, when you you're terrified for your life, you think the plane's gonna fall out of the sky, and the couple next to you just starts making out.
Honestly, I'd be too busy minding my own business that I think I'd be I guess that would make me feel worse, actually. Yeah. I'd be this really is the end. I did say Dua Lipa and Trevor Noah at the 9/11 memorial. Yes. I do think very akin to
That'd
this.
That'd be bad. That'd be very bad.
Example, any sort of historical monument that pays homage to something inherently upsetting.
Huh. I'd say, again, along the lines of this movie, a cemetery. And I know some of you bitches like to do that. You're wrong for that.
That's so true. Very much, again, Tumblr culture, being I want to get my pussy ate on top of a gravestone.
That is disrespectful. Ew. That's disrespectful as fuck.
That's somebody's meemaw.
Like, I know personally, listen, if you are going to have good sex on top of my gravestone, fine. But I'm assuming that if you are someone that is having sex in a cemetery, you're having bad sex. And that's what's going to make me more mad than if you fuck on top of my grave.
I'm going to say my place of work, which isn't specific to actually my office, but just as an individual, that's the last place I want to see people making out, is when I'm clocked in.
If I was on the floor stalking apples and I saw two people making out across from me, I'd be pissed.
Trader Joe's. That's actually on the list right up there with the Anne Frank house. Don't kiss in a Trader Joe's.
No, all the employees are already making out in the back, so like you don't need to pull your weight. I promise you, they're already doing it. Again, this one's still more along the lines of this movie. In a children's hospital. That'd be bad. That'd be really bad.
Yeah, I can't think of any really situations that would be appropriate. No. Like maybe if you are the child in the hospital, if you're like a 16-year-old girl with cancer and your boyfriend comes, like, yeah, please make out. Like, your days are numbered. But sorry, that's bad. Yeah, that's it. Or do you have any ones that are worse? That I can't think of much worse than that.
I think that during the dog's death scene in Marley and Me. Very inappropriate.
Oh, I do think, like, pieces of media, like, either, like, music to have on or movies to have on, like, while you're, like, quote-unquote Netflix and chilling.
Yeah.
Like, what's the worst possible thing to fuck to is a whole other can of worms.
Absolutely.
Like what movie do you not put on if you're trying to hit?
Yeah.
Like that could be a whole... Ooh, that's a new Letterboxd playlist.
That's a good one. Oh, let's collaborate on that.
Yeah. You're like Schindler's List. Like, no.
Yeah. The last one that I have is like if you're in a group of friends and one of your friends is coming out to you actively and you're kissing your significant other, you're fucked.
Or just, yeah, if anybody's trying to say, like, a funeral, too. Like, if anything, like, momentous is happening, just don't.
In a church, like, come on. You're not Fleabag, I promise you that.
Oh my god. I'm pretty anti-PDA as for myself, personally. Uh-huh. But I do think that's, like, nice for other people to have if they really like it. Like, I think, yeah, like, hold your significant other's hand.
Absolutely.
Give them a little kiss.
The one thing I'm against, though, is, like, have you seen those, like, it's like the vibrators that are control activated on your phone. If I see you, and I'm sure I've said this on this podcast before, if I see you having an orgasm in Macy's, I'm calling security. Actually, I wouldn't do that to you. I wouldn't call security, but I would, like, publicly shame you.
Yeah, I'm gonna privately tweet about it to my 200 followers. So, ooh, you better be ready for that storm. Yeah, I think there is certainly a conversation, especially about people who bring like their sex life and like kink into public spaces.
Yeah, it's like the whole discourse about like kink at Pride kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. And I think stuff like that. Don't kiss at the Anne Frank house. Let's keep that as our touchstone for these conversations.
Yeah.
Don't kiss at the Anne Frank house. Some infinities are bigger than other infinities, but do you know what infinity is bigger? Is the chocolate infinity is bigger than the vanilla infinity? And I'm dying on that hill. And my lovely mother Jen is here to host her interim podcast segment, Chocolate or Vanilla, a game. Weekly, we play it here. Jen says two things. We all say which thing we like better. Play at home. Yell your opinions. It's great. Play this with your friends in the car. It's a great way to pass time. Chocolate or vanilla. Argue about it, you know? Jen, is there a theme this week? And also, how are you?
I'm really good. How are you guys?
Swell.
I'm all right.
What does Augustus say? He's like, I'm grand. That's how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
I'm okay. So there's a theme this week, and it is YA books that were turned to movies.
Love it.
Oh my god. So we're recording this. I will break the fourth wall for a second right now. That we are recording this directly after Emily and I had just finished the episode, and we failed to mention that Shailene Woodley and Ansel Elgort look like siblings in this because they're casted as siblings in Divergent. Why?
Yep.
How did we not bring that up? How did we not bring that up? I'm like, they look like siblings. And then in my head, I'm like, wait, because they literally were casted as siblings.
Yup.
Crazy. I'm sorry to break the fourth wall for a second, but I just could not believe that we forgot to mention that.
Mm-hmm.
And then Miles Teller and Shailene Woodley, they were like girlfriend, boyfriend in Spectacular Now and mortal enemies in Divergent.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
the Divergent casting agents were on some shit.
Absolutely.
They were on some like let's not cross-reference our decisions bullshit because what?
I think that happens a lot though, that there's like producers and directors that like to work with certain people and they come in groups.
I guess.
Like, all the Ocean's 11 guys have all been in other movies together and
True.
When you said YA, I just couldn't believe that we forgot to mention the Divergent of it all. Anyways, Jen, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Oh, sorry. So, chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate. The chocolate infinity is bigger than that point doesn't even make sense.
Vanilla.
I'll go chocolate. So, chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry?
Chocolate.
Vanilla.
I'm gonna pick strawberry again. I'm in a strawberry kind of mood.
Nice.
First one is Holes or Hoot?
Holes. I did really like both of these books growing up. And Carl Hiaasen was one of those authors that I did not realize that he was an adult author who decided to venture into kids' books. Because there's a difference, right? It's like when you read Maximum Ride and then you learn that James Patterson has 800 adult books and you're like, what the fuck? But Holes through and through. I think I will solidly state that Holes is the single best book to movie adaptation ever made. The way that they took that text and put it to film is so true to the story, but tones up the things that should be toned up and I don't know. I just think that nobody has ever done a kid's book or any book really that level of justice. And that should be the blueprint for that's how you do it.
Yeah. Sorry, what was my other option besides Holes?
Hoot?
Oh, Holes. Easy.
Yeah, I know.
Absolutely.
Do you remember that movie
story.
where they save all the owls?
No.
Yeah.
Isn't
Jimmy
there
Buffett's
a Jimmy
in that
Buffett?
one.
Yeah, a Jimmy Buffett cameo. Yeah.
I think he had a starring role. I don't even think it was just a cameo. I think he was
Funny.
Next one is 13 Reasons Why I Am Number 4 or 5 Feet Apart.
5 Feet Apart? What is that?
That's Cole Sprouse and, what's her name?
I know.
Yeah.
The one, she's in the White Lotus. She's in that new White Lotus.
She was in Edge of 17. Haley Robinson?
Steinfeld?
No. Haley something.
Wait, Edge of 17 is Haley Steinfeld.
And
Yeah.
the sister. She plays the friend of the sister. Yes.
Yeah, Haley Lou Richardson.
Thank you.
Lou Richardson, yeah.
Interesting. I will say I am number 4, Jen, because you love that series. And as much as I thought that it was pretty mid, you really liked it, so I'm here for it.
I will also go for a Jen pick because I know that in the movie, isn't it Diana Agron, isn't it?
Yeah. Queen for Bray.
Yeah, the Jen of it all. So I will choose I Am Number 4 for this one.
Oh my god, I feel so heard right now. I am number 4 for the sweep. That is a really good. The movie was fair, but the books were so good.
I remember going to Barnes and Noble on the day they were released with you because I read the first 2 with you and then I was yeah, this is I'm over it, but you were when books 9 and 10 were coming out still being okay, we have to go to Barnes and Noble today because it's coming out.
Next one is Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl, or this one, Fault in Our Stars.
So again, breaking the fourth wall, saying that I haven't read Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. I'm going to bring this up again in roughly 15 minutes. But Emily's convincing me that maybe I should, or at least watch the movie. But The Fault in Our Stars was my jam back in the day. I will say it with my chest, even though I'm embarrassed. But I did love this book.
Yeah, Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. I really liked that book. I really liked that movie.
I am going to pick Fault in Our Stars, but I have not seen or read the other one, and I probably should.
Wait, I really felt like you read that.
No, I didn't read it.
Oh.
Next one is Artemis Fowl or Maze Runner.
Ooh. Oh, I really liked both of these. And a little fun fact is that my cousin Erin, who has been on our National Treasure and A Cinderella Story episodes, my very cool cousin who is a lawyer, is way smarter than both Emily and I combined, probably, who's added some insight. She used to write fanfiction back in the day, and I was like a side character. And for some reason, her fanfiction really blew up in like Australia.
That's so cute.
Like Australia and New Zealand, like because her name was like Kiwi Girl or something. So her fanfiction really blew up there. And it was Artemis Fowl fanfiction, and I was like a side character. And so random teens from Australia were like, "Hey, Kiwi Girl, tell Dara that we say this," because they like knew I was like a real person or whatever. Which that is kind of
crazy.
And that was like my gateway into sort of like the fan fiction verse, because I thought it was so cool that my cousin Erin did that I like then kind of sort of explored my own fan fiction journey. But yeah, shouts out to Erin for writing Artemis Fowl fan fiction. But I was way more invested in the Maze Runner series. I think that was just a little bit more our time, and I really loved those books. Loved those books and was disappointed by the movies, as most YA books tend to go.
Yup. No, I totally agree with you there. I ripped through the Maze Runner books, so.
I'll pick Artemis Fowl for Erin also, even though I never read them or saw it, but just for Erin. But
I believe it's a Disney Plus series now. Like Artemis Fowl, it's like a TV series or something. I've never seen it, but
the Maze Runner, though, I would say, and Hunger Games are two. As a parent, when you came to me and like told me the premise, I was like, oh, I don't know. You know what I mean? You're like, if they don't make it inside the maze at the end of the night, they get killed by monsters. I was like, oh, Dara, I don't know. Next one is Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants or Percy Jackson Lightning Thief.
Oh,
Jen, this is brutal. Like two S tier books. I was a Percy Jackson bitch.
I know.
I loved that shit, and I loved that I read it on my own. I think we read it as a family because it was something that like my little brother, who really did not like books, like somehow like you managed to kind of rope him in with it being about like a young precocious boy. So you kind of like roped my younger brother into it. So it was like one of the very few things that I think our whole family like really like. That was our Harry Potter. I think a lot of people tell like the sort of anecdotal family stories of like, oh, like our dad read Harry Potter to us and it was like a bonding thing. Like we had, I think that was certainly the Percy Jackson books for like us, that we all really loved them. And again, disappointing movies. They're coming out with a new TV show, which I'm pretty excited to hopefully see what happens, because I would like to see them do justice by those books because they're so good. Those are ones that were good to the bitter end that I stand by. Like a lot of like, especially like the Maze Runner, I thought the ending was shit. Hunger Games, I thought the end was shit. But like those books, I really think did a good job. Rick Riordan, he fucking knew what was up. So yeah.
I totally agree with you. I don't think I ever read The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. I was just a very big fan of the movies. But I did rip through a good handful of the Percy Jackson books, so I'm definitely going to have to jump on the Percy Jackson train for this one, even though I think as a movie, The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants had a bigger impact.
Agree. That was like a better book-to-movie adaptation.
Absolutely.
They really did not, like, it was almost too soon for Percy Jackson. Like, they just, it was too
it
soon.
It did marinate,
yeah.
I do like that Uma Thurman did play,
Medusa?
Medusa, yeah.
Yeah. I'll totally pick Percy Jackson to it. We did love those. And like Dara would be like, Mom, you know, you don't have to read to me anymore. And I'm like, I know.
But I want to.
Exactly. So next one, now we're going to some OG kind of YA stuff.
Okay.
Catcher in the Rye or Lord of the Flies.
Oh, I remember. So I think as an adult, if I had to read these two back, I would probably find more merit in Catcher in the Rye than I felt my sophomore year of high school. But I just remember being like, Holden Caulfield is a little pussy-ass bitch, and I think this shit is fucking stupid. And I think that if he just acted like a fucking adult, this wouldn't happen, which is obviously kind of the point of the book, is that he's sort of insufferable. So I don't really think I enjoyed that, but I do remember loving The Lord of the
I definitely liked Catcher in the Rye a lot more, and that's still one that I want to revisit now as an adult. So I'm gonna say Catcher in the Rye.
I'm gonna go Lord of the Flies. Next one is Little Women or Anne of Green Gables.
Easy.
Never read either of these, but Little Women is cool. Louisa May Alcott was from Massachusetts. Shouts out. So
Yeah, I am definitely gonna choose Little Women. The impact that media has had on me has been enormous.
far greater.
I definitely like all the Little Women movies and stuff, but Anne of Green Gables was a series when I was a kid, and it's based out of Canada. So even though Louisa May Alcott's from Mass, Anne of Green Gables, I think that's like based in Nova Scotia, which is where my family's from. So I always felt like connected. Next one is To All the Boys I've Loved Before or The Hate You Give.
Yeah, I just think that there's an objectively right answer here, and it's The Hate You Give. You said To All the Boys I Loved Before, and I was ready to pick that one because I really do think that is a cute, like, rom-com-y, like, I kind of stand by that as being sort of a cute teen piece of media that, like, has kind of a good message and is just, like, really self-aware as, like, far as what it is and what it's doing. Like, I'm usually a rom-com hater, but that one I actually think is quite adorable. But The Hate You Give was, like, so did not get the credit that it deserved in my eyes. Like just I think deserves to be revered as one of the best YA books turned movies, and just, like, a movie's telling such an important story and making such a poignant statement about, like, what's going on right now that I could not believe that it didn't receive more attention than it actually did. Really, really great. I remember sobbing. I remember going to that movie with two friends and we're like, who's gonna drive home? Because we're all crying, like, too hard.
I did not see The Hate You Give, so by default, I'm gonna pick To All the Boys You Loved Before. But this is the second week in a row that Dara has talked about how an amazing movie it is. So I'm gonna have to check it out for sure.
I know, same. I'm going to say the same exact thing. I'm just going to ditto what Emily just said. I know I should pick it, but I haven't seen it, so yeah. I'll pick To All the Boys I've Loved Before. Next one is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children or Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Oh, Perks! Both of those books, actually, I really liked both of these books. And I never saw the Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children movie because I think that came a little too late. I think that, the time that the book was really popping off, they didn't do the turnaround quite quick enough because I think by the time the movie came out, I was, like, far past it. And it's, like, prime audience was really far past it. But I do remember really liking the book. But Perks, that's one that hit
classic.
Hard.
It's classic. Yeah, no. The only interaction that I've had with Miss Peregrine's movie is that Florence Welch released this beautiful song for the soundtrack. And it's just amazing. But other than that, like, I don't know shit about it. I didn't read the book or anything like that. I think Asa Butterfield is in it. That's about all that I know besides that. But I have watched Perks a good handful of times, and I will say it does still hit. So, Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Yeah, I'll pick Perks too, because we liked that back in the day. But I will say that for Miss Peregrine's, the protagonist is her name Eva Green?
Eva Green.
Yeah, she was in the Bond movie you guys did.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, Casino Royale.
Yes. Next one is Maximum Ride or Howl's Moving Castle.
Oh, Maximum Ride. I don't know where this is gonna fall in our editing, but if we're talking about the movie, the Maximum Ride movie sucked fucking ass. Like, it was ass. If we're talking about the movie, I'm picking Howl's Moving Castle because the Maximum Ride movie was so bad, but it was my favorite book series growing up. I will stand by that it was my favorite book series. So good. But if we're talking about movies, Howl's Moving Castle far surpasses it. So
I didn't realize that Howl's Moving Castle was a book.
Yeah, neither did I. So that's what Google says.
Oh, absolutely, I'm picking Howl's Moving Castle. I adore that movie.
I knew you guys would say that. I am going to pick Maximum Ride, though, because I loved those books, too. And the last one is the Harry Potter series or the Hunger Games series.
I'll say the Hunger Games. Back in the day, I would have said Harry Potter, and it's just one of those things that has not aged well with me as an adult. And as much as I loved it in my childhood, I can leave those memories in the past because I care about trans people more than I care about fiction. So I'm gonna pick The Hunger Games because you know what? As far as I know, Suzanne Collins hasn't said anything fucked up.
Yeah, I think if you've been listening to this podcast long enough, or even if you just listened to the last episode, everyone knows I'm gonna pick The Hunger Games. And if you want to hear more about that, go listen to our last episode. I'm not gonna get back into it on here.
I will sweep with The Hunger Games. Definitely.
Sorry, I didn't mean to pose the, like, you're transphobic if you like Harry Potter narrative, because that's not necessarily true. You can like that piece of media and it can mean something to you as a part of your life. Like, I recognize that it's, you know, an objectively fun and good piece of media that a lot of people were very immersed in their childhoods, myself included. Because I think it's, like, not fucking chill to say, like, if you like Harry Potter, you're fucked up. Like, that's not true. But it's just, like, important to recognize as an adult person, like, sort of the implications that, like, certain authors, you know, you can recognize that a person is not a good person while also, like, recognizing that their media was a important part of your childhood. Anyways, this episode is about cancel culture, I think. We've decided.
Yeah.
I think we're getting canceled.
Cancer culture? Cancer culture or cancel culture?
Cancel.
Oh, sorry.
That's so funny.
But honestly, if we're in the literal heart of Jesus telling our stories, I think that it's also cancer culture, Jen.
Yep.
So thank you for that. That was great. And thank you for this chocolate or vanilla. This was exceptional.
I know, I was going to say, I know that you guys probably spent the whole hour trashing that movie, but I think it's sweet. I think it's well acted. I think it's, like, emotional. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's just how I feel.
Don't apologize, Jen. Speak your truth.
Yeah, feel your feelings. I was saying that this was one that was like the teens loved it, but the moms loved it too.
It's true.
Thank you for this chocolate or vanilla, and we will see you next week.
All right, thanks. I love you guys. Have an awesome week.
You know what you can do? And you know, in my heart of hearts, what I think is true in this movie, that while these two kids were being inappropriate in a public space, I think that Laura Dern was out being inappropriate in the appropriate public space to be inappropriate, which is the red light district. I think that she left her incredibly pretty husband at home during this movie, and she went out and she had herself a good ass time. I think she probably needed it. I think her husband probably hasn't been able to get it up for years because he's been so sad about their situation. And you know what Laura needs? Dick.
He was really pretty.
He was insanely pretty.
I'm like, who is this actor? Because he's also a great cast for Shailene Woodley's dad, because he did have the same sort of, like, beautiful round eyes that she does. Like, I believed.
I believe.
As far as crazy casting, the girl they got to play the young version of her in the flashbacks.
Crazy.
I was like, I was watching this with my mom, and she said, "Did they CGI? Did they like AI CG Shailene Woodley's face to look like an 8-year-old? Because that's wild." And I was like, no, they just obviously did great casting. But I would love to see the short film about what Laura Dern did in Amsterdam while these two kids were off. Also, the biggest jump scare, Willem Dafoe.
Why was he, like, don't get me wrong, he's hot in general. Why was he so hot in this movie?
He was so hot.
I just got my Letterboxd, review back, and he was my most watched actor this year, and I was like, that's such a fucking win.
As he should be. Somebody asked me recently, they're like, what is your phone background? And I had to, like, scroll over and, like, open my phone background to show them that it was Willem Dafoe in The Lighthouse.
Oh!
I'm like, it's Willem Dafoe in The Lighthouse. And they're like, oh, doesn't that kind of spook you? Like, every time you open your phone, it's a scary man.
No,
like,
I'm horny.
It turns me on.
What do you mean, spook me? Come on.
But I fully forgot that Laura Dern was in this, but I especially forgot that he was in this.
Right? I was shocked.
Wild. And that he had no scenes. And all of his scenes were so underwritten that he did not get to shine. Like,
no.
Like, they did not give him the space that I know that Willem Dafoe can, like, really, like, fill out a character.
Absolutely. He did the best he could. That is for sure.
Yeah, I do think that's why I think I credit a lot of the bad acting in this to the writing, because even the good actors are kind of, like, underperforming.
Besides that, I mean, One thing that jump scared me a little bit and that I don't remember from the book was like the hard Christian undertones.
I thought you were gonna say the hard needle trap, the hard needle drop to Charlie XCX's Boom Clap.
Oh my god, yeah, there was that. That was a big one.
Which, did you know that was released as a single for this film?
Are you serious?
For this film.
Oh my god. Well, that's insane because they said like, and I didn't come up with this myself, but like Cassie pointed out, she was like, they have some Sims ass fucking music in this.
The soundtrack, ass. The soundtrack is so bad. They got the lead singer from Bright Eyes did a bunch of the songs from this, and I think that they were like indie girl vibes, but the movie did not match the soundtrack. Like, they wanted
not even
that
close.
Indie girl soundtrack, but they did not give the indie girl movie. But I do agree with you, the weird like Christian, well, it's all about like the literal heart of Jesus, which I think they make fun of more in the book.
Yeah.
It was the fact that like that the cancer support group happens to be held in a church, and that the loser guy with testicular cancer, or like who had testicular cancer, is like the leader of the group. And it was a lot more like sarcastic and jabbing at like, it's so stupid that we have to be in this church while talking about dying. Like, that's a whole thing.
Yeah.
Whereas in this movie, it did just feel kind of religious. Also, Jen did tell me, out of all the cancers to get, testicular, easiest one to beat.
Oh yeah. But if you got one ball, you got one ball, man. They can put
Do you want to know a trivia?
Yeah.
The word for somebody who has one testicle is monorchid.
Interesting.
Like one ball, monorchid, like mono, like one, and orchid, like the flower, like monorchid.
Huh.
And so you can call Lance Armstrong a monorchid, or the drummer from Green Day, or anyone who only has one ball.
Yeah.
Fun trivia fact for everyone at home.
That is a fun
Yeah, but you were going to say this movie just feels kind of religious because I guess the greater themes of like existential, what is the meaning of life, kind of aid into that.
Yeah, for sure. Also, it was just like the whole like, and I mean, this wasn't just the movie, this was the book, but the whole like, I don't smoke, blah blah blah, and all that shit. Oh my god, just smoke the fucking cigarette. Just smoke the cigarette at this point.
I wish that they went to Amsterdam and smoked crack legally.
Dude,
I don't know if you can legally smoke crack, but I know a lot of recreational drugs.
Dude, if they went to
legal in
Amsterdam, they should be hand rolling their own cigarettes.
I will say, as I have aged, like, this is really the first time that I've reconnected with this piece of media in, like, maybe a decade.
Yeah.
Maybe a little less, but honestly, as an adult, I kind of side with Willem Dafoe's character, like, what is his name, Van Houten?
Yeah.
I kind of agree with him that he wrote a book, and that's what he put out into the world, and you don't owe anyone any explanation beyond the art you put out, and if you want to be the kind of author that talks to fans and answers questions, that's great, and that creates a great sense of community, but you don't owe that to anybody, and I'm just like, the way that people demand outside of, canon explanations for things from authors is the reason why we know that J.K. Rowling's a fucking TERF. Like, people being like, oh, tell me more about Dumbledore, and her being like, I don't know, he's fucking gay. Like, no, stop asking. This should be a cautionary tale to not ask authors about the stuff in their books. And I'm like, that's the book he wrote. Don't be like, what happens after the ending? Like,
that's the whole that's Hazel Grace. Do you know that there's a reason that people write fan fiction?
Yeah.
Like, come on. Girly pop.
I'm willing to bet that the Imperial Affliction fanfiction thread is not popping off, though. Like, I'm gonna bet that that's a little dry, but I think that's why you write fanfiction,
exactly.
Right? Is that you find, I don't know, just find other ways to express that.
Write your own ending.
You love a book's,
girl,
right?
Like, self-insert, like, use your own, like, creative mind, like,
shift. But I just didn't really care for, like, that they go into his house, and, like, obviously the point is that, like, he's a drunk, and he's an asshole, and he's not very nice to them, and that his assistant was the one, like, actually writing all those emails, and, like, that he wasn't actually really interested in, like, having this sort of correspondence, but that's what they get for just showing up to his house, and then he puts on some Swedish hip-hop for them, and they're not into it, and
that music kind of bangs, though.
I was like, Eminem. I was like, Swedish Eminem. I'm like, I would be like, my favorite author, if I showed up to his house asking questions, and he was like, do you want to just hang out and listen to music with me instead and have a glass of scotch? I'd be like, fist bumping. I'd be like,
absolutely.
And as far as two teenagers who seem so, like, intelligent and, like, emotionally intelligent, and that they can really, like, understand existentialism because they have cancer, do they not get that, like, sometimes just things are what they are, and that an author maybe hasn't thought of things outside of this book because it's just something, like, how did they not realize that this was a very real possibility?
Yeah, like, it was not even in their realm. Do we want to get into our regularly scheduled programming?
Sure. I think who the fuck, the marry, and the kill, should we do Laura Dern? Should we do her two parents and the writer?
Yeah.
Or should we do one of her parents, the writer, and, like, somebody else? Like
the
cancer
assistant?
group guy. No, the assistant was hot, too.
She was hot. It's a thing. Let's not even open it up to the full movie, but let's throw in the who are you getting a drink with.
No, I heard a really good one recently. Fuck, marry, kill, fight.
Oh, I like that. I'm gonna fuck Willem Dafoe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna fuck him. He's really hot in this one. Even though he has, like, the kind of, like... He has, like, the, like, if it was on, like, a 22-year-old actor hair, that it'd be, like, really cringe 2014, but because it's on, like, a 55-year-old Willem Dafoe, it's, like, really hot.
Sexy.
You know what I mean? It's, like, almost a coif, but it's not. I'm gonna fuck him. I'm going to marry Laura Dern because my dream is that in our 50-year marriage, she ends up sending me into the afterlife like she tries to do with Hazel, and she says, "It's okay, sweetie, you can let go." And I would want Laura Dern to lure me into whatever life is beyond this one. Also, she seems like a fucking gem. And very selfless and gorgeous, obviously. Like, come on. No one needs to hear me talk about how wonderful Laura Dern is. I'm gonna kill, his assistant Leadwy, or whatever it is. I think it was wrong for her to lead those kids on like that. I think it was really wrong for her, and I think she's kind of dumb for that. And I know that she probably thought she was doing something, but I don't think she thought it all the way through, and the repercussions of inviting these kids to Amsterdam just to crush their little spirits. Like, they could have gone and they could have used their Make-A-Wish on something cooler and something better. And then I'm gonna fight the dad because I think he needs a good fight, and while he's very pretty, I think he's got a lot of anger and rage, and I think he needs to get it out. I think he would beat the shit out of me. I think I would walk away with, like, a brain injury. But I think that, you know what, like, that is my charity, I guess. And I'd give him a run for his money. I'm not making this, like, an easy fight.
I will say, before getting into my answers, we don't include underage people in these because of the whole marrying and fucking, which is, yeah, just, like, us being borderline appropriate. But I want to punch this shit out of Augustus Gloop, because he's the kind of motherfucker that just, like, somebody needed to tell him that cigarette shit was not cute.
No.
Like, no matter what personal significance that has to you, do it in private. Like, you should be embarrassed. You should be embarrassed. Mm-hmm. I'm not of the, like, kids need to get bullied to learn how to, like, act right thing. Like, because that's, I don't know, being bullied is not cool. But, like, somebody needed to be, like, a friend. Alex Wolff needed to be like, honestly, bro, that's not cool.
And Alex Wolff kept it real with him. Or sorry, it was Nat Wolff. Nat Wolff kept it real with him. Isaac.
Also, I will say that the part still really does get me when they're all giving their eulogies, and he's like, when they give me the robot eyes, I don't want to put them on because I don't want to see a world without you.
Yeah, that is.
There's a lot of corny
shit, but, like, there's a couple that I'm still like, God damn it.
It's because they ripped that whole eulogy scene straight from the book, which is why her little bit that she says is, like, somehow more eloquent than she's ever spoken, because they were like, we can't change this because it's so good.
Some infinities are bigger than other infinities, like, and all that shit.
Oh my god. And
I'm so thankful for our little infinity. Like, yeah, okay, alright.
Come on.
You had me. You still had me with that one, John. I'll give it to you. I'm 23 now. It's been 10 years, but that one's still got me.
That one's handwritten in pen in the margins of my, like, Algebra 1 notebook.
Oh my god, like word for word because you've read it so many times. Yeah.
But I'm gonna marry Willem Dafoe. Because much like you, I did find him insatiably sexy.
He was really hot in this one.
I do think that, like, if my, like, you know, mentally estranged husband was like, let's run away to Amsterdam and just, like, hang out and listen to hip-hop and get drunk all day, that's the fucking dream, baby.
Honestly,
if he has the life where he's no longer publishing books and has a full-time assistant, that means that he has the life to support me while we just, like, bull around in Amsterdam. Yeah. That sounds great. Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna marry Willem Dafoe. I'm gonna fuck the dad. He was hot. It might be kind of like sad sex, but I'll give him a good cuddle after.
Yeah, like you're the big spoon for sure.
But he was so distractingly, like, kind of pretty that I was like, oh, what else are you from? I'm like, what else are you in? And I didn't really recognize anything else that he's ever been in. I'm like, wow, okay, I guess just like rogue casting choice.
That is just a beautiful man.
And then do I have to pick from the same four as you, or can I fight the group leader?
No, same four. I'm gonna say same four.
Okay, then I guess I'll fight Laura Dern because I know she would win.
Yeah, like she'd like it'd be like a Hunger Games moment where she'd pin you down, straddling you.
And it would be kind of nice, but I would let...
And you just come on the spot.
I think, like, it would be more of, like, a bitch slap.
Yeah.
Like she would bitch slap me, and then I'd try to bitch slap her back, and we'd have, like, a good talk about where it went wrong, and then we'd have some wine together.
Yeah,
I think that could be nice. And then who does that leave with? I'll kill Ludwig, because she should, I agree. And she should not have been, she's like, there's no escalator here, or there's no elevator, and we have to walk up 9 flights of stairs to get to the attic. Okay, girl with an oxygen tank, when she was like, oh, I can handle it. I'm like, you tell them that you're going to a different museum. Like, don't, as an adult, it's kind of your responsibility there to, like, make sure that those kids are safe. Yeah, so
she was not doing a good
not
job.
Cool.
Yeah.
Not cool. And then what would you eat and drink with this? Because my answer is pretty bad. And I said, you smoke a cig for real.
I didn't say you smoke a cig for real, but I did take on, like, the same sort of idea. It's called, like, a smoking classic or something like that. But, because I was trying for a long time to think of, like, something that, like, you could be, like, poisonous or some shit like that you like put in a drink, but you like it's not like harmful and all that I don't know. Okay. I was trying to like go along the lines of like, oh, you put the killing thing in between your teeth so you don't give it the power to kill. I was trying to go along those lines. I couldn't find a creative enough answer. But
that's a great like line of thought though. That's way more than me. I'm just like, smoke sick for real, bro.
It's like, what are you gonna do? Like, put poppies in your drink or some shit? Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. But, it's called, like, a smoking classic or some shit like that. And basically, what you do, it's a little involved, is you end up smoking, like, some Angostura bitters, basically. And you put them, like, on a grill in, like, a cast iron, and you smoke them kind of thing. And then you add some sugar cubes to that, and then you basically just pour champagne, use those smoked bitters, add a lemon twist, and that's your drink.
Champagne too. That was my only other really note. Was that they have the big note about the champagne like being important, and they do seem to eat a lovely risotto, which I felt was like a little too ripped, but it did make me. I'm now in the mood for what do they call it? Like dragon snap carrot risotto. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah,
sounds great. But yeah, anything involving champagne because they do drink it twice in this movie. If you want to rip it straight from that. But yeah, I think that sounds like a smoky risotto to be, or a smoky drink to be like his cig. That's cool.
Yeah. And then I said, considering that it's actually like a smoked drink and they're in Amsterdam where those bitches are rolling their cigarettes and everything like that, you just do something really like, because that's a little bit of an involved drink, so I think you do a basic sandwich. And I did ask my darling friend, Kesty, who studied abroad in Amsterdam for a little while, what was like one of her go-tos over there. And cheese is a really big thing for Amsterdam. It's huge. Like that is like their like national thing. But her like go-to like simple sandwich was just like wheat bread toasted with brie, crushed walnuts, and honey on it. Super simple, super easy, super nice.
That sounds glorious.
Yeah, so I think you match those two up.
Ooh, especially if you toast the nuts.
Yeah.
I love a toasted.
Mm-hmm.
I love a toasted nut. I'll say it.
Yeah.
Literally my only note for food and drink was have a cig for reals.
Fair enough.
But then as far as what do you follow it up with for a movie, I have two answers.
Okay.
They are so basic. One is you watch Aliens, the sequel to Alien, which we've covered on this podcast. So if you have seen the movie Alien, go back and listen to our Alien episode. It's pretty good, I think. But the sequel, directed by James Cameron, who also did the recent blockbuster Avatar 2: The Way of Water, he directed Aliens, and they watch it on the plane. And the whole thing is like, Augustus is such a sci-fi nerd that he's making Hazel watch Aliens on the plane, which I was just like, what? But that like shot that they have of it, I was like, ooh, I want to watch Aliens now.
Yeah.
And Emily gifted me for Christmas a wonderful framed poster of Sigourney Weaver in Aliens when she's like carrying the big gun with her hot little haircut. So that does stare at me while I watch TV every time. So I'm always like glancing over. So just, to have that is nice. But my for real answer is that true ones know that in the book, Augustus first says his like first big compliment to Hazel is that he really likes her short hair because it reminds her of Natalie Portman in V for Vendetta. She's like, I'm not beautiful. I have short cancer hair. And he's like, you can be bald and hot. Natalie Portman, V for Vendetta. And she's like, I don't know what that is. And then they watch that movie together on their first date is what happens in the book. And I think the movie V for Vendetta would be a nice little switch up.
I think it absolutely would.
Nice little tonal shift. So I say you watch that.
It's crazy that they didn't add. I mean, I can understand why they didn't add that in, I guess. But like the only nod to that is like in his room, like when they're having like their big chat about books and everything like that. The poster behind him is V for Vendetta. So like I guess a subtle nod, but it would have been nicer to actually see that. I know that you like to do tonal shifts when it comes to your next movie. I am definitely more of stay along the same page. And just, I think a better movie, a better child cancer movie, if there is one, is Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. Another book to film adaptation starring Olivia Cooke, who I am obsessed with. I think she's fantastic. And if you're like, here's the thing about this movie is that, and I'm speaking for myself, I didn't cry. It didn't get me to a point where I was gonna cry. I thought it was fucking sad. But if you have watched this movie and you need to get that catharsis because it's like edging you kind of thing, I think you watch Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl, because I sob at that movie. I think that it's way more creative. I think it's really beautiful. I think it's definitely more like the all-indie version of this. And I just remember really liking that movie. And also the book. So I think you jump over to that.
Interesting. I never read that book or saw the movie, but
Really?
I did think of it. I thought of it as being like that John Green has sort of popularized the rom-com about the sick kid genre, like adding, that it was then hot and cool to be like, how do we make this rom-com edgy? They have cancer. And I was like, oh, this is clearly just like in the wake of that. But I do remember the response being so like different and critically good that I was like, oh, this must actually be kind of good. But yeah, I never really thought about watching it, but maybe I will. Because Olivia Cooke she's great.
Yeah, I adore her. When did 2012 Fault in Our Stars came out? Yeah.
Are you gonna?
This also came out in 2012, so hold on.
Interesting. I was gonna say, are you gonna clock me that this book is from 1990? Not that I don't think he invented that trope, but I think that this was the first oh shit, stuff for teenagers can be so sad and not even a little bit in a sci-fi way.
Yeah.
Like not even in a little bit of a dystopian way. This can be sad for real.
Yeah. But yeah, that book came out 3 months after The Fault in Our Stars came out. So they're very close.
Wow,
but,
crazy.
Yeah, but the turnaround time for this movie was 3 years later instead of 2 or some shit like that. But I would say even now, and I haven't seen it in a very long time, but I'd say that even now I think that movie holds up.
I'll have to give it a watch because I think my mom read the book, so maybe she'll have
it's very
take
good.
on it.
I don't remember much about the book, but I remember really liking the movie.
Okay, and so what would you give this movie on a scale of 1 to 10? I'm gonna give it
3.
Yeah, I'm gonna say a 3. Yeah, I think I can separate. This is the nostalgia from when you're a teenager is a lot easier and more manageable than the nostalgia from when you're like 7.
Yeah.
So I can really recognize that this is not good. And I actually really didn't like it as a teenager, as a movie. I was always like, it's never going to be as good as the book.
Yeah.
Because you kind of revere like whatever your favorite book is, and your heart is like you almost don't want them to make a movie of it because it's not going to be what you want.
See,
sort of
that was
thing.
the opposite of me for the Hunger Games, because I knew it was going to be good.
I have so one of my favorite, if not maybe my favorite book in adulthood, is this fantasy novel that's kind of been in works for either a TV show or a movie for a while, and like part of me just doesn't want them to ever do it because I know it's not gonna, like, I'm like, unless you hire me to do all the casting and set direction and costumes, it's like, it's never gonna be good. But Lin-Manuel Miranda signed on to do the music, which although that man is cringe, he does write a little snappy tune, so we'll see. It's called The Name of the Wind for anyone who's interested. It's called the Kingkiller Chronicles. It's a trilogy, but the third book hasn't been written yet, but the first 2 are out. Third book is yet to be. It's, it might be a while. It's kind of a Game of Thrones situation, but it's my favorite, and they're talking about making something out of it. And it's one of those, I'm just like, they're never going to do it right. They're never going to do it right.
Yeah.
But yeah, some pieces of media do not need to be, I mean, I would love them for them to do it right, but like some pieces, this is one of those that I'm like, this is the book that I actually just really, I don't know if they could have ever done it well in a movie, because you need that like inner dialogue of the character to understand what they're going through, and you just can't get that in a movie always.
Yeah.
Like I just you couldn't always convey the right emotion because it was always going to come off a little like patronizing. But ending this episode, why are they always in a Barnes and Noble?
Always.
Why are they always in the Starbucks of a Barnes and Noble?
John Green had to pay homage to the Barnes and Noble.
To something. I just remember that happened like 3 times, and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, really.
But to end you all with a question, has anyone else, like, do you have to shit every time you enter a Barnes and Noble? Because I do. Have I talked about this before? I must have.
Yeah. It's like scientifically proven. It's
my favorite, like, icebreaker question to ask people. It's just like, do you have to shit so bad as soon as you enter a B&N? Because
I do.
Because I do. I take the best shit of my life every time I'm in Barnes & Noble. So don't DM us about that. But maybe, if you want to include it in a larger message about other things, I wouldn't be mad. Thank you all so much for listening. We are continuing January. Still looking for a better name for this month if anyone wants to come in with that, incorporating the letters YA or really just anything into the month of January. We're talking about YA books, and we started off with 2 of the hot ones, but don't be surprised when we come in hot once again. And as always, please drop us your messages, emails, anything. All of our stuff is in the description below. We have a Discord, we have, Instagram. I think we have a Facebook that we actually just have never posted on ever. So don't try to find us on Facebook.
Also LinkedIn.
Twitter, yeah, we have a LinkedIn. What the fuck? I think it's just so that Emily and I can put on our LinkedIns that we're employed at the Swamp Podcast.
Basically.
But yeah, please message us with thoughts, feelings, emotions, questions, suggestions, all of it. We love to hear from all of you always, especially just suggestions about what movie you want us to cover next, chocolate or vanilla themes, questions you want us to answer. Nobody's ever sent us in I don't know why you'd want to know about any of our personal lives or thoughts or whatever, but just anything, always please message us. We love it. And we appreciate you all for listening, and goodbye and good night. And don't kiss your fucking significant other at the Anne Frank house.